Tonight, we're going to be talking about that insane dragon from the Four Horsemen. By the time you add it all up, it's almost $1,000. Is it worth the hefty price tag? We'll talk about that and so much more tonight on Geek Dad Live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Geek Dad Live. My name is Jay, and with me, new official co-host, Quip. Quip, how you doing tonight?
I'm excited to be here. First official stream, official Geek Dad Live as your compatriot, as the Scotty Quippin to your MJ, if you will.
Scotty Quippin, I love it. Oh, that's so good. That's you, yeah. It's and much like how the real Scottie Pippen actually helped MJ win the championships, you, my friend, are the secret sauce to this new combination. All right, got 10 people in the chat. People are hopping in the chat. We got a special guest joining us tonight. I'm super excited. One of my favorite people in the toy tubing community joining us tonight to talk about Four Horsemen as well as all the other stuff going on right now in the world of toy news. But just real quick, a viewer of this show, a longtime viewer and friend that lives locally to Raleigh, Brad Brooks, took me out just before this show, like a couple hours before this show, to a Carolina Hurricanes game. We went to go see hockey. So big thanks to Brad Brooks for taking me out to see a good hockey game. We were up 3-0 on the Winnipeg Jets. So sorry, Canada. But anywho, thank you, Brad, for the great time. His goal was to try and get me so inebriated I couldn't do this show tonight. But Brad, I win. I'm still relatively inebriated.
You made
it.
You're like Hulk, where the secret is you're always inebriated during the
show. All right. Let's bring out our special guest tonight. This gentleman does phenomenal streams on Sundays as well. You can find him on the YouTube channel, Brick Something. Please welcome Brick Something. Brick, how you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm doing great. It's good to be back, and it's good to be back with you, but your official co-host over here. What's up, Quip? Good to see you. Look at you, all official.
Brick, I gotta give
memo
you
about the collared shirt.
Absolutely.
I know, both of you. I didn't get the memo. It's not fair.
Well, you did, but you're just too drunk and you forgot. So it's cool.
Jay, the official policy is look good, feel good, play good, pays good.
Maybe you've got, I don't know, 1 out of 3 of those, maybe. Okay.
Complex policies, guys.
Brick, I got to give you credit. You brought Quip onto your show a month or so, 2 months ago. Yep. I don't know. And watching that show, I was like, damn, Quip's like amazing. Quip's been in the chat forever. Yep. And in the Discord and the GDL community forever, like an essential component. And I was like, oh my God, you got to come on you got to come join the show sometime. And then Quip just never would leave, so he just became
well, thank you, but like at the end of the day, like, you know, every week I have a guest on the Brick Something News, and I'm just trying, like, it's basically my excuse to like meet people in real life. And I've been hanging out with Quip on, like, here on GDL, then on the GDL Discord. And I was like, I love this guy, and he's follow. I don't know I don't mean to make it sound like that, but then now you're over on Toy Amigos and we're in there together. And, and I was like, dude, just come on the channel. And I was so happy when I saw him here, and I was like, yes. And I'm also glad that we got to, you know, test all the tech, and he's a nervous dude. Have you guys gone through that? Like, let's set up the tech and all of this.
No, you got all of his first timer nervousness out of him. Really.
I was laughing. Let me pull the curtain behind. Then there's the, here's the Google Doc that we're using.
Oh, he Google Docs you too?
Oh, well, he tried to. Like, I could tell he was like, hey, what are we going to talk about? I was like, here, let me just show you. And by the way, Quip and I are cut from the same cloth. I do like weekly prep stuff and Google Doc. So then anyways, I was just excited. He wants to prep. And then I'm coming on here and he's like, oh yeah, check this out. I'm putting these links together. And I was like, I don't think that's a J thing. That must be something that you brought.
Well,
And today he's like, Jay texts me. He's like, hey, check out the Google Doc. And then really quickly, he's like, yeah, Quip made it.
Yeah.
Quip made it. Come on.
Well,
yeah, that's why I love Quip being on the first time. He was like, should we play that? I was like, nah. Just we'll talk what we talk about. But I personally, Quip, I really do enjoy it as someone that doesn't put that much forethought into what we do on the Sunday streams. It is nice to have those links and stuff like that because I'm not having to like do it in real time while we're being live. So Quip, you complete me on the organization front. So I appreciate it, my friend.
Yeah.
Well, happy to help. Again, thankful to Brick for bringing me on, right? Kind of really, started something, right? Appropriate to your last name. I think somebody said that in the chat, but definitely fan of what you've both been doing overall as far as cultivating positivity in the toy collecting space. Relatively drama-free, right? I say relatively, but because there's always going to be, kerfuffle here or there. But fact of the matter is, I'm always down to talk toys and here to just try and maintain that positivity. So I'm happy to contribute. Thanks again for bringing me on, Brick. I'm sorry if I offended you or anything, because Jay's had me on a bunch of times, but I haven't heard you haven't spoken to me since. I mean, what's going on with? I'm joking.
Oh no. See, what it is, it's kind of like, so you guys were talking sports before I got here. I don't do sports, but I do understand this. So basically, you got like, you were on my team, and then eventually he drew you away. Like you were pulled away, and you were down in the bush leagues essentially, hanging out with me, and then you got drafted. So you're now in the NBA with like Scotty. What is that? Scotty Quippen or whatever.
Scotty Quippen, yeah, I dig this.
I'm like, I don't know, I don't do sports, so whatever. Yeah,
other basketball player.
Yeah. Yes, I know the LA Lakers because I grew up in LA and because the Red Hot Chili Peppers sang about them. But that's about it.
Wait, the Chili Peppers talked about LA? That just doesn't.
LA Lakers, fast break makers, kings of the court, shake it,
California,
they back to back is yes.
Is that a focus for the Chili Peppers? I've never clocked that before.
Yes.
Okay. First of all, there's no. I hate LA. You doing that on my stream is offensive to me, Brick. Just so you know. All right, let's say hello to the chat. All right, it is hopping as always, even when we're on J-Light savings time. Thank you all for hanging with me on that one. Master Blaster, memes of eternity, KL, Christopher, Negri, Make Mine, Marvel Legends, Brian Brink, master of the charts. Big credit to Brian to actually putting together a chart for this dragon, by the way. It's not as easy as some other things. Toy Manoids, Derek Ova is here. We've got Paul Morales, Shelf Present Stanley, Gary L is in the house. Lone Star, Galaxy Toy Wander, J Solo Arts, Michael Warwick, Paul Galliano, Geek Dad Live. Happy Sunday, folks. Thank you. Quip is an. Hey, what did you? It looks familiar. Where'd you get that, Quip? Looks very good. Alpha Magnus is here. Rabbit McGavin, Johnny Cock, Dave, Matt Bush in the house. Get together, Jay and Quip. Cone Killer Confuser, literal J-Light savings time. James Vinipol, Allison Choi, Master of Research. Chad Stewart, Peak, Obi-Wan, Mike Jur. Oh, fudge. I knew how to do this in real life. I've met Mike in real life, and we spent like 20 minutes working on his last name. Mike Jerlico. I'm sorry, Mike. Nick Dillinger is in the house. Smedberg is here as well. J Mac Mint with card. And so many more. Viewer Pattern Gaming, Michael, Alpha Magnus, Lucky Cantrell, so many people. All right. Oh, gentlemen. I'm not real, so you can't meet me in real life. Hey, listen, one of my favorite things of going to conventions or shows and stuff like that is meeting people from the chat in real life. Usually, if you meet me in real life, I will ask a question along the lines of like, "Oh, awesome! Thanks for watching. Like, what's your chat name? What's your username? Or how would I know you from the chat or something?" And some people are like, "Oh yeah, I'm so." It's like, "Oh, awesome! That's great. That's nice. Put a face to the name." And some people are like, "No, I'm a lurker. I don't actually chat in the chat." Well, this is my call to all y'all, the lurkers out there. You are welcome to come in and join the chat. All are welcome here.
Wait, that last one before you go. Far be it from me to be controversial.
Oh yeah.
But I read that comment next to his thumbnail, and it kind of threw me off for a second.
Wait, I missed what? I missed it.
I didn't know if he was being tongue in cheek. Yeah.
I missed it. I
He
missed
said,
it.
You can't meet me in real life because I'm not real, and his thumbnail is Jesus.
Oh,
So,
Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
anyways, I was just thrown off there for a second. I was like, whoa, coming in hot.
Oh boy, I don't know if he was taking that hot of a stand on this show today. We got some anniversaries. We got Matt Bush, member for 31 months. Chad Stewart, member for 16 months. Studio Henge Kenton, member for 31 months. You are all having anniversaries for GDL Family Fool. So thank you for being a family member.
I got family.
You got family with the GDL family. Jerry going to Joe Fest. Words out on, I don't know about Joe Fest, but gentlemen, I bought my tickets this weekend to go to Toylanta or PowerCon, Powered Up Toylanta, whatever they're calling it. So I will be in Atlanta. Well, it's actually not. It's Duluth, next to Atlanta, for Toylanta.
Yep.
I believe so. We're all going down, but Colleen and Zach are going to do like a geocaching thing. So it'll be me and my youngest son Alex walking the floor. So if you see us out there, say hi. But then also realize that my youngest Alex he's very shy. He's not much for the social whatever. So if he's like shy, hiding behind me or whatever, it's not you. He's just shy. But if you see me, say hey. Dave gifted 5 GDL memberships to the chat. Dave, thank you so much to the 5 new members. Welcome.
I got family.
You got GDL. I hit it again. Sorry, I did.
Hit it 4 more times. I recently heard that Johnny Nostalgia and Mad Hatter love when you do that drop. So we got 5 family members. Go ahead and hit it 4 more times for each of the new family members.
I got family. I got family. I got family. I got family.
There we go. Hey.
Rocks in my mouth.
I was chatting with old Johnny New Toys earlier today about an idea I have for the Raleigh area. And he was very supportive, very like, I think, yeah, we can chat about it. I don't know if I want to be a part of it, but we can definitely chat about it. I'm like, thanks, friend.
I respect those boundaries though.
Right. I respect the hell out of it.
Yeah.
But just know when I become a billionaire, Johnny New Toy, remember, you could have been in the ground floor.
Oh gosh.
Could have been you. Just kidding.
We're talking Jesus. We're talking billionaires. All the fun content.
Yeah, we don't want any real billionaires.
Let's not toys.
Oh goodness. We haven't had Matt Hatter on in a minute. Near, we need to have you on, my friend. I know you're busy. You're fathering and running a toy company, but there's a Sunday you're available, my friend. Come on down.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get into this thing. So we knew about this. Gosh, when was it? Like November? It was fall or something.
November 4th, I think. Yes.
Okay. So the Four Horsemen Studios at Legion's Con, right, showed off a Titanic scale dragon for the Mythic Legions toy line. And I think we're all like, oh my God, this is the most beautiful dragon I've ever seen in my life. And I think one of the big thoughts was, it's amazing. How much is that going to cost? Well, now we know. This weekend, pre-orders opened up for the Four Horsemen Store Horsemen exclusive, right? Is not being sold anywhere else?
Yes.
Yep. BEYITHIRR. And so it is available for pre-order right now. You can get just the dragon without outstretched wings for $550. You can add on the Fiery Breath set for $150. It's a big piece of fire, and it comes with the head too. That head to do the fire, and this figure. And then we've got the wings set for another $150, which I think brings the total, if you want everything on this thing, to nearly $1,000. Gentlemen, what are our thoughts on, I guess, the figure itself, which we've seen for a while, we've known about for a while, but now we know the price. Quip, what are your thoughts?
Oh, I was going to defer to Brick.
Brick, what are your
You know,
thoughts?
that's what we brought him in. Let's hear. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. First, Trevor's in the chat and correct me. It is November 7th of last year. G-Con. I just want to like establish a little bit of context. So sorry.
It wasn't Legion's Con, it was G-Con.
Well, okay. So at the beginning of every Legion's Con, the day before the Legion's Con proper starts, they do a thing called G-Con. It's part of the tradition where they reveal the next wave.
Mm-hmm.
And so this year they revealed the wave. What folks, I want really people to understand who maybe aren't familiar with Mythic Legions or the Four Horsemen. Last year, 2024, was the 25th anniversary, I believe, of the Four Horsemen Studios.
Mm-hmm.
The people who brought you Motu Classics, 2000X, and a bunch of great Spawn toys and a bunch of other Mattel toys, Super 7 toys that you love. They formed their own studio. Then 10 years before 2024, so 2014, they started this line, kickstarted it, crowdfunded it, called Mythic Legions.
Mm-hmm.
Hugely successful. One of the most hugely successful toy Kickstarter ever. Okay. Then they do that a couple of different times. And here we are. This is their big anniversary. They show us a wave. People have been clamoring for, when's the dragon coming? When's the dragon coming? It's in some of the artwork that Nate Barch has done. There's been a dragon, and people are like, hey, when is this dragon coming? Every year, joke about it in the Mythic Legions Cabal, which is sort of where folks gather, the hardcore Mythic Legions fans on Facebook. When's this dragon coming? When's this dragon coming? We're watching there November 7th, showing us all this cool stuff. They actually unveiled that they're doing a couple new toy lines. This is important, I swear. They're doing, in addition to Mythic Legions, they've done Cosmic Legions, Figure Obscura. They announced another line called Infinite Legions. They're announcing another line that I'm forgetting, but it's like Mythic Legions Legends or something. Trevor, help. But basically new toy lines in addition to what they're already doing. What folks need to understand is that even though they've been around as a studio 25 years, I got to go to this thing called Intern for a Day. And that place is small. There's a few people working there. Most people don't actually work in the studio. So this is by no means your Hasbro, your Mattel.
Sure, absolutely, yeah.
Okay. So we're sitting there waiting for this thing. They announced all these different toy lines. And, we're like a couple hours in already. And we're like, okay, well, the dragon's not happening. That's cool. They announced all these other great things. They announced a new role-playing game based on the lore. They're finishing up. They bring in like the rest of their entire Mythic Legion studio. Again, these enough to fit in this room. There aren't a bunch of them standing around. They say, round of applause to our folks. We give them a round of applause. You guys are great. We love you. We're fans. Cool. And then they pull a Steve Jobs. But wait, one more thing.
Yeah.
They split the table, open a door, and they roll out this beautiful work of art that is BEYITHIRR right there. Prototype, right? One of the prototypes, painted prototypes that they had. Absolutely gorgeous. The room like truly was electric. This is like the culmination of what these folks are doing. If you're familiar at all with what Mythic Legions is, and you've ever held one of these wild action figures in your hand in terms of the paint, right? In terms of the sculpts, these things are gorgeous. They're not the cheapest toys out there, right? They're not this, which I love, but they're not. They're different. So they cost a little more. When I saw this thing, I was like, man, this thing is toy history. Gigantic dragon, like it truly is. Like, we haven't done this. And I want to like emphasize that point for a second, because we're living in a world where there's an Eternia out there, and there's a Cat's Lair out there.
Yep.
But still, this thing to me is like they found a way to ratchet and offer us something different. All that to say, yes, it's $550 for that base dragon. Yes, you need to throw in another $150 to get Fiery Breath and a figure. And yes, you need to throw in an additional $150 if you want the big old huge extended wings. But this thing is huge, folks. This is like bigger than most dogs. And it's like impeccably detailed. It was on display. There was a sort of, what do you call this thing? A prototype that they were showing, like that was all like butter colored. They call it the butter dragon. They're showing it sort of pose, etc. And then the painted thing, which is like, man, I got to meet the painters at Intern for a Day, Sherry and Cameron. And sometimes Joe paints, like a bunch of folks in there. They're just sort of jumping in, and they're all artistes, right? Artisans of the highest caliber, in my opinion. All that to say is, I get why it's $550. I also think it's pretty smart, because some people are like, why are they charging an additional $150 for all this stuff? Right. And we can talk more about that. So all that to say, I understand why it is what it costs. I think folks need to consider the size of the company. Their main business is not dragons or things this size. So this is like a wholly new enterprise for them to figure out how to pull off the engineering. The tail in that thing, bunch of segments, posable.
Yep.
So that's where I'm at. But I'll give you the punchline. Am I getting it?
No.
Are you getting part of it though? Because that's another
I'm
part of
not
it.
even doing
Just the
that.
fire.
It's something that I could do. It's something that, like, you know, I like, oh, like, as far as money, you know, I've been saving just in case. Like, I'm prepared to do it.
Sure.
You know, but I just don't have the space. I really don't.
Yep.
That's so I want to acknowledge that piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
But you won't catch me, at least, saying this is ridiculous and too expensive, because I really think that people are missing some information there. We can talk about that a little more if folks want to, but that's the where I'm at with it.
Sure. And I think that's a fair point, right? I have an opinion on that, and I'll share it when it's my turn. But at Quip, what's your thoughts, my friend?
So I'll start sharing from the point that I kind of hinted at with Break. Is one of the things that I really like most about this, that is really cool as an alternative means to go about collecting this particular character, right? Because he's a pillar of the West. There's Tupac, there's Kendrick, and there's BEYITHIRR, okay? So if you're in on 4-H and you have the means and the space, hey, if you like it, I love it. I say it all the time. But the add-on packs, if you legitimately look at the add-on packs, like say you backed out and then you went into the Fire add-on pack, I think that's the most tempting one. There's a lot of buzz around that, because fact of the matter is, even though that's called an add-on
Translucent Flame Knight? Hell yeah. Come on, man.
Translucent Flame Knight that transitions into metallic armor in certain areas, right? If you look there at the feet and some of the hands, depending on how you want to go about it.
It's sick.
But it's really cool, and you can just get that, right? So a lot of people who aren't necessarily in for the whole or the full Monty, right, as it were, but they're going for, hey, I want a dragon, I want to display a dragon, right? And the fact that they are offering the add-on sets, so you can go just $550 for BEYITHIRR, no additional add-on sets. You can go Fiery Breath add-on set to get that Burning Knight figure. And after a certain point, because each of these sets have a tier, right? The 2 add-on sets have an additional tier. In order to get funded, the add-on sets need to sell 1,000 units apiece. But if each of those add-on sets sells 1,250 units apiece, you get the additional figure upgrade, which is just more accessories to go with this. But this Fiery Breath add-on set for $150, I don't know that complete total after tax and shipping, specifically for that section. But that is a little more tenable, right? You get an entire head. You can rig something up. A lot of people have talked about it. Have it coming out of a cave where it's blowing fire.
I love this one from Nier. Buy that add-on set and use the head to poke through your fright zone. I love
Bingo. See, so people are already getting very creative. And Four Horsemen, they are experienced. They are, sculpts, how they go about sharing their new items, and the interchangeability. The fact that was Four Horsemen one of the first, if not the first, to give the resealable card back? Was that Four Horsemen as well through the Mythic Legions?
I don't know if I don't know enough if someone else has done it in the past.
They did, if
but
not,
they have always done collector friendly packaging.
Yeah, they sculpted the Matty Collector Ghostbuster, or at least the Comic Con exclusive, and that was resealable. So They've been around long enough to, I think, to have done it on a
Yeah.
few different toy companies' toys.
I
But yeah,
mean,
good call out.
the Four Horsemen themselves are pillars within the collecting community, right?
Absolutely.
Hey,
And so
pillars.
with that, them offering these different add-on sets, it's a cool way to get people into the line. You know, if that price tag does make you clutch your pearls and you don't feel like selling those pearls in order to afford BEYITHIRR, then cool, go with one of these add-on sets. So I am not in on Mythic Legions. I don't collect it as Brick was mentioning earlier. It's a pretty penny. I appreciate them from afar.
Mhm.
The thing that tempted me the most was that bear, just because, again, I mean, we're all 3 California kids. So that bear on the flag, I mean, that was something that I was like, okay, can I work that into the display? But similar to Brick, and applauding you for healthy collecting habits is, okay, can I get this? Yes, I can get this, but should I get this? Do I have the space for it? Am I willing to give up this much space for this particular item? Again, me, no. But I'm all for people who are going in on this. I know a couple people in the Discord who have bought this, and it ain't tricking if you got it, right? I mean, I'm not going to hate on anybody. There are people, and I say this about every single figure that drops. Okay, we can nitpick it to death, or we can celebrate with those who are celebrating this arrival, right? There's no
Yeah.
reason for me to rain on anybody's parade. This is an awesome figure. And as we were just talking about, or I was in the chat on Brick Stream just ahead of this, toys beget toys. So can we just
Yep.
celebrate this being an awesome moment
Mhm.
in the collecting community? And if you don't want it, cool, let it ride. No need to yuck anyone else's yum. This is just a cool figure, hands down.
This is one of the many reasons why I love this man. Absolutely. Like, I think the positivity and providing people that space to just sort of enjoy, like that's what we're here. I don't quite understand. Sorry to cut you off, Jay, but I just don't understand people jumping in, especially if it's like people who have zero interest in Mythic Legions, period, have to chime in as if it's somehow some like principle. Anyway, we could talk more. Jay, sorry, we haven't heard from you. I am really curious.
Okay, it's all right.
It doesn't have a
No,
floor. I know it doesn't have a floor, but
it
but
doesn't
tell
have
me.
a floor, and that's just one of my make or break kind of, you know. But no, I'm just kidding. So people know me, know that what I do on this channel, which is make stupid financial decisions, it's space decisions. There's a lot of dumb
Yep.
decisions.
Yep.
And so I'm trying to live better. Okay, I'm trying to be more responsible as someone that has a Cat's Lair package and box in my, you know, entryway area to my house and nowhere to put it. So I'm living with the consequences of future Jay stuff. Okay, but so I guess the question one, it's kind of shocking to me if there is discourse on the level of this is just way too much for this, they're overcharging it, what are they thinking, like that level of commentary. Because I think assembling a compilation of what both you have said on the lines of, this is not Hasbro, this is not Mattel, these aren't billion-dollar companies or even mid-tier companies, but I think a lot of times and I like to call them the mid-majors, the NECAs, the Mondos, the Four Horsemen, where we assume they function at the same level of maybe, you know, the majors do, and it's not even close to the truth, right?
No.
It's a much smaller operation. Yes, it's a company, it's a legit company that puts out legit products, but it's a different level of operation. And the scale of the, like, to me, nowhere about this does it feel like a ripoff, quote unquote, right? There was nothing in my mind that didn't think the Dragon alone would have been around $500, just because of the scale of the company and probably the scale by which they, like, the quantity, the MOQ of it just didn't seem like they could do $250. It just wasn't going to happen. Right. I think people were mentioning the Scare Mare in the chat by Mondo is like $599. There's a certain scale on the minimum order quantity where this thing, with the articulation, with the level of paint detail, like, it's just nowhere in my mind did I not think it was going to be that much money. Now that's the one. I don't think it's overpriced, but is it something that is probably just out of other people's price range? I could totally say it's expensive.
Of course.
By the time you throw everything, it's $1,000. I could absolutely see, like, I just can't swing that. Totally get that. And then to the other side of what you both are talking about is the space thing, where it's like, do you have space for a gigantic dragon? And for me right now, it's a no. But you know, if it was a perfect world where I had space and infinite money, I would absolutely buy this thing, even though I'm not a Mythic Legions collector by choice, because it's a slippery slope, because every single piece is so freaking beautiful and so just like, holy crap, this is art on a toy shelf. But I can't. I have a ghost and a cat's lair with nowhere to put it. I gotta start making some tough decisions about space. But so I absolutely see how you don't know space, or $1,000 is too much freaking money. But Quip, I like your idea. This, if I had to get only one thing, it would probably be this fiery breath set, because you know.
And the cool thing about this is, so I'm sure Four Horsemen have already thought this. I don't know if there's been any confirmation or not, but so BEYITHIRR is the pillar of the West. So we can assume we're getting 3 more dragons. What type of
a red dragon? That's when it's going to be tough.
So
if they
what
do a
type
red
of
one,
effects are those dragons going to come with, and what sort of knights or ashen skeletons or frozen skeletons might we see down the line? So that's another thing where you're thinking about, okay, if you're on the fence and you have the means, by which everybody live within your means, times are tough out there, right? That you can order this. So say you do get the add-on set. There are going to be people who skip the add-on set. You'll be able to recoup your costs. You can sell it. I'm not saying buy it to flip it, and this isn't a flipping thing, because it's an open pre-order right now from March 7th to April 6th. So but you know, if you're kind of on the fence, if you really do think you might want to do it, and you might want to hold on to it, then cool. And you can see what other dragons. I don't know, has there been any sort of time frame teased for when you might see additional dragons, Brick?
No time frame. So let me that day, again, going back to that G-Con, there's been this conversation, sort of like we've learning some story stuff in the lore of what we call mythos, right? And that day they announced, they sort of like zoomed out of the map of mythos, and they said, you've been looking at a map, but you've really been looking essentially at one little continent. And they scrolled back and there were multiple continents. So the world got bigger in the midst of this one day. And that's where they said the pillars, right? I'm assumed, and I understood this correctly. I think I understood this correctly, that each sort of world or each little continent had at one point a pillar. They did say, and I'm mostly deferring to Jeremy Gerard, who was sort of like the voice of the lore, right? A lot of this is in the mind of creator Eric Treadway, but Jeremy sort of works with him to kind of like figure out, what is the story? How do I write it down? How do I get it out there? And he did say that there are 4 more pillars to come. BEYITHIRR is the greatest of them all. So presumably it's the largest.
Okay.
And there was a question at one point. I know Trevor brought this up the other day, but I thought I'd heard it even earlier, that Jeremy had said, they're not necessarily all dragons. There could be other dragons. There could be other beings, whatever it is. So that said, I mean, it speaks to your question of like, I think you're trying to go with like, could they interchange fire?
I just want a red one. I want to be real.
Right.
Green,
and that's fine.
It was cool. But if it's red, that's when you throw out Reasonable Jay, and he's not. There's not much of him in this.
Well,
brain
I'll
space.
say, you know,
if it's red, that's what's going to be tough.
You've studied toy lines, and you've talked to a bunch of toy makers that obviously, if you're going to spend the money on tooling this stuff up, there's always an opportunity to recoup costs if you reuse some of the molds.
Sure.
And Four Horsemen are by no means averse to or like shy about reusing parts. Like that's what they do. But for something like this, I would be surprised if they just give you the exact same dragon red.
I want it exactly the same.
Well, it could be, it could not. But that's
Studios. I want it in red.
Well, here's the dilemma. Potentially good news for you, potentially bad news for you. Okay. The dilemma is like you could sit here and say, well, I'll wait for the red one, but you don't know that there will be a red one.
I know.
I know. I'm just going to throw this out there.
Here's the thing is it's not, I know the waiting. I'm not waiting with anticipation to buy. Okay. I'm not, I am not. But I'm saying is I think for some people, there is a level of like, I'm going to be reasonable and not do this because while I think this is incredible, I don't think it's like it's worth what you're getting because it's so, you know, it's like a piece of art, et cetera, it's big, whatever.
Yeah.
But there is a suspension of reality where if it like the Cat's Lair, this is my example, where no reasonable reason why I would buy that damn thing, but it was just seeing it at Comic-Con and then later PowerCon. I was like, this is the coolest I just need this. Don't need it, but I need it. And you buy it. So that's what I'm saying. I feel like a red version of this, that it triggers that just throw out any bit of logic. I just need it.
And the reason they went, my understanding is part of they were drawing on sort of like dragon archetypes, if you will, and depictions of dragons. And the green dragon is very much like, you know, a thing for people. They had to start somewhere. But I will say, like, I don't want to give them like creative.
I'm also not knocking them for doing green. It's green. It's a dragon. It looks like a dragon. It's cool. Yeah. I'm just saying for me personally.
Can I just name really quickly that Elmo is red? But anyways, moving on. With
I like Elmo, Brick. God dang it.
I don't know. Some of your behaviors sus,
I'm never
man.
beating the accusations.
Okay. We'll talk. I'll call you in on that. I'll stop calling you out. I'll call you in on the Elmo conversation some other time.
I mean, still, I'm pro Grover. Sorry, Grover is better.
Oh, Grover's great. Grover's great. But
even as you're talking, sorry, go ahead, Brick. Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, go. I lost it.
No, well, what I was going to say is, so, I mean, if you're already like what I'm kind of smiling about, and I'm excited for people who can do this. So, you know, there are people within the community that are absolutely going to buy multiple of this particular dragon. And
they're in the chat.
That some people are going to customize them. So I'm excited to see. So you already know, I don't know what the Venn diagram is between Four Horsemen collectors and Disney fans, but somebody's going to take this and make a Figment. Somebody's going to take this and, you know, make it purple.
His name is probably Eric Miller.
Okay. All right. Somebody's going to take it and make it black. So it looks kind of like Maleficent, right? A black dragon. People are going to do all sorts of fun things.
Quip, but a Maleficent dragon?
Here, I'll add to that. So the reason I said Eric Miller, because Eric Miller took their Dragoseer, which is basically like a humanoid dragon on two legs, and painted it Figment colors. And it was fantastic. I'll give you this. You want to see a red one of these? You will see a red one of these because someone I know, his name is Curtis Ackerman, is buying two, and he's going to paint one red and give it Granimir's helmet and style it after the Motu Revolution Granimir. So they'll be out there and you can enjoy them from afar. You don't even have to spend money or take up any space.
Yeah.
But let me, like, we're talking about, like, I hear you guys saying, like, hey, if you don't want the dragon, you can get this. Let's be real clear. You don't have to get this at all. Like but if you are at all interested in dragons and like you like the idea of having a dragon in your collection, I will tell you, no, 100%.
I'm just thinking of you as like a pickup line. It's like, hey, you into dragons?
This is
gonna
easily gonna be the best dragon you will have at this scale. Like it really, I backed a Cyberzoic Arctic dragon. If folks aren't familiar, that's by Creative Beast Studio, another fantastic company, and I love it. It's like, it's gorgeous, but it's smaller. If you wanted like a dragon that scales with these sized figures, or your Joe Classifieds, or your Thundercats, or your Masters of the Universe, whatever, your Dungeons and Dragons figures from the movies, don't be shy, they're cool. This is it. Like Matt Hatter was mentioning like putting the head in the fright zone. I'm not at all throwing shade because, as I pointed out, like I do a show called Into the Masterverse where I love Masterverse. So I'm a fan of Mattel and Motu. But let's be real. If you take this head and you put it in the fright zone, you will see a clash in terms of the way that the fright zone is sculpted and not painted versus this thing, because the quality is there. So
oh, sure. It's different for sure.
if you want, I'm just saying, like, and I know that's not
Way to crush
want,
Mad Hatter's creativity, Brick.
that's fine.
Very
If you
kind of you.
want, if you want a gorgeous thing, this is for you. But if it's not, move along. Seriously, I get it. Even
I understand. I was calling out. Maybe people listen to the show and don't actually watch it. Just listen. You're dead. Mad Hatter reviews. You're dead for throwing shade at me. Parody song coming up.
Fair enough. We could do a back and forth. We could beef lyrically. We'll do that.
Be better than that Johnny New Toys beef. Let's just say that. I believe it.
But let me just go back real quick. As far as, like, you know, people maybe wondering about, like, I've seen it out there. I've seen some posts that are like kind of vile, like saying, like, the one, my favorite one yesterday was, you know, questioning the price, and the quote was that the Four Horsemen are monsters for doing this.
Oh my God, that's silly.
And I know some of the hyperbole is the intention is to maybe get clicks, or maybe not.
Sure.
Maybe the person just had a bad day or whatever, taking it out, whatever, mom yelled at him. But this whole, like, I don't know, man. If you had any sense of the scale of the company, what it's going to take for this creative team, like, they don't have a bunch of, like, unstable sculptors, painters, etc.
Yeah.
This is a
15 people,
and this is a whole new endeavor for those people, right?
Yeah.
Even like the ancillary stuff, not the sculpting of the toy, but think about Trevor taking photos. Think about Nate Barch doing art. Like, this is on a different scale. Like, this is a much larger figure for Trevor to take a picture of and try and get into.
Like, this is a great shot.
Yeah, look at that
great shot.
But
so good.
Think about, I had a conversation with Nate at a brief conversation with him at Legion's Con. And as someone who's done design work for print and in general, I was just like, hey, what I saw today at Geek, or the other day at G-Con, was you guys announced a bunch of new toy lines. That means new branding. That means rethinking packaging. If everyone's ever seen a Mythic Legions package versus a Cosmic Legions package, they didn't just use the same pack. They recreated it. So, like, that's somebody's work to think through. So they went from having 3 toy lines to, I think in that day, announcing 2 additional sets of figures.
Okay.
That someone has to think about and design. And then we're doing something on the size and scale we've never done before. And think of all the prototyping that needs to happen on this, the working with the factory to produce something of this scale, and then figure out how to ship it. Like, we all saw what happened with Cat's Lair and the shipping debacle. If you're not used to doing that, that's a whole other set of work. And so you're talking about a tiny company trying to figure this out. And as Trevor pointed out earlier, the margins on this are not huge. They're not.
That's what I just put a question in the chat. Do you think the Dragon is overpriced? Because I feel like it's a minority. Just my guess, a minority that feel like it's, like, unfairly overpriced. Like, is it too much for you right now? Sure, but is it like price gouging for what it is? And I don't think that's true at all. And then I will say, are you going to buy back any of the BEYITHIRR releases? This is a bit more of again, it's a smaller audience for this type of thing. 71% in the chat said no, 28% said yes. It's 128 people. There's a couple of chats I do need to plus in. We have some super chats as well. Please forgive me, gentlemen, to plus these in, or give time and space to plus these in. Brian Carr, the $5 super chat. It's a grail piece and a centerpiece for any collection. It can go with Motu, D&D, and many other toy lines. The base Dragon isn't much more than a HasLab. Alpha Magnus, $5 super chat. Can I get a shout out for a friend's Kickstarter, Commander Tomorrow, and soon he does unemployed Skeletor cosplay. I know he's been around forever. See y'all at Toy Atlanta. So there you go. There's your shout out, Alpha Magnus. Thanks for the super chat. Secret Galaxy, Dan Larson. Why don't all cars cost the same? Why do people pay so much for a pair of shoes? Should all concert tickets be the same price? See how silly that sounds? I do think it's very silly. 1-6 shooter. Margins on this are very small. They're not trying to get rich. They want to see this made and as much as people want it to be made. Michael says, who knows? Maybe Mattel does the Granomir for $200 down the line. I'm rolling my dice for that. Hey, there you go, Michael.
Okay.
Just
Yeah.
you got to play the hand that you want to play. Gary in the chat says, Jay, the dragon looked great sitting on top of that unopened Cat's Lair box. Damn it, Gary. And then I love, this might be my favorites comment in the chat. Blake from Toy Collector Magazine. If you don't have the cash, just imagine dragons.
Very good. Very good.
Yep, I will say you need to get both. You need to open up BEYITHIRR, and I want to see BEYITHIRR on top of your Cat's Lair, like BEYITHIRR in heat. I think that would be kind of a cool diorama setup.
It's fair. See, Matt had a review, $5 super chat. I'm curious how people can be so sure this is overpriced when this is unprecedented in the toy community. This has never been done. It's a masterpiece. This is the thing. I feel like Mad Hatter, I feel like most people here love him, but whether you love him or hate him, he will speak truth and he will call BS on things. And he's telling you this is unprecedented and it's not overpriced. So that to me is your answer right there. And 16 shooter, shoot me an email, geekdadlife@gmail.com. I'll send you the link if you want to jump on and show some stuff. Okay. So the chat has voted over 100 votes. I'm going to end the poll. Do you think this set is overpriced? A majority, overwhelming majority say no. 73% say no. They do not think it's overpriced. 26% say yes.
Okay.
I love it. I love the GDL family. Like there's some rationality up in her. I will also, was that it for the super chats?
At the moment, yes.
Okay. Hint, hint, wink, wink. I think I as some people have said, Pap I think said it, Brian Brink has said it. Like I've seen this thing in person. It is everything that people have said. So fine, fair enough. I don't think it's overpriced at all. I will say this: my brother is getting it. He was there with me. If he was not getting it, I would fully be backing this thing, and it would sit in a box in some like storage somewhere, probably in my classroom, and never see the light of day, like my two Galactuses. Let me also say this about flipping, since we heard from Mad Hatter. Flipping,
it's always
on
a part of this. It's always a part of it. Yeah,
it's not flipping, at least not in the traditional sense. It's not a problem. It's not a problem, I think. And a couple of people also said this. I think Trevor sort of said this the other day too. Like if Mattel makes 5,000 of a thing or 10,000 of a thing, and then you go out and you buy a bunch to flip, you are taking that some of that finite amount of product away and overcharging for it. This is like made to order. However many get purchased and pre-ordered is how many they're going to make. And I feel the same way about HasLabs. If someone's going to go in and buy a bunch, then so be it. Like, they can't stop you. You sit on them, and if you want to flip them, see two Galactuses I mentioned earlier, then it doesn't actually sort of hurt anyone, except for the folks who either decided not to get it when they could have at the same price as everybody else, or maybe the folks who couldn't. I get that you couldn't, but like that you couldn't. I don't know what to say. So I think, hey, folks, if you want to do it for that purpose,
don't.
I'm not going to be like, well, but if you are,
if someone is sitting on a Cat's Lair that's been on Facebook Marketplace for weeks and not a bite,
right?
So you know,
so
it doesn't
I'm
always
not,
work out.
I don't want to diss any other companies or whatever, because I don't think it's about that. But I will just say the track record of Four Horsemen.
Oh, like, sure, absolutely.
Yeah,
it's wild.
Yes,
how much I can recoup, and so like that's
absolutely.
not the same with a lot of the toys that I get. But like that's part of why I love buying these things. And sometimes if I do an all-in order on a wave with figures that I don't necessarily want, I'm not worried about selling the ones I don't want, at least for cost. Which is like, if I'm selling it at cost, it's because I'm want to help other people out. Like but I know that I could be making more.
Yeah, I
So-
would sell my Cat's Lair at cost, but nobody even wants it at cost.
But that's it's just a different market, right?
It
It's
is.
a different
It
demographic.
is.
It's a different set of fans. It's a different company of fans of the company and the property that they just
Absolutely.
think and behave differently. So
But
Plus,
to
post
your
it on.
point,
Good.
Rick, about this not being like it's not flipping. As I mentioned, I even mentioned it earlier in our conversation about how the pre-order is open. It's open until April 7th, I believe. And if you were to purchase extra, right, as somebody, so we've all at one point or another, whether it is a figure that's a con exclusive and we can't afford the plane ticket, whether it's just something else that's sold out quickly, that was a open pre-order period. At the time we were thinking, no, we don't need it. And then people start doing in-hand reviews and you're like, okay, I do want it. Okay, I do need it. Fact of the matter is, in this particular instance, if people don't buy multiple of BEYITHIRR and the window's closed, and people start getting these, what are they expected? They said late 2026, I believe.
18-ish months.
Okay.
Expect
And
probably
these start
more.
getting delivered, and at that point, you have saved up money, and you now do have the opportunity to purchase it, but nobody bought extras, so they were made to order. Nobody's selling it. Then you're just kind of out of luck. But if people did buy extra, sure, there's a premium associated with that. And again, your mileage may vary depending on how much extra you're willing to pay for the opportunity to now purchase it after that window has closed.
Yep.
But they're really providing a service if somebody were to purchase this, hold on to an extra one, and then sell it down the line. If you think about it that way, right? And this is
I'm
kind
sold.
of
I'm getting one.
the mental gymnastics
wanna be of
I've had to do to
service.
justify purchasing things above MSRP later on down the line. Because it's like, well,
Absolutely. That's
okay,
yeah.
I can try and
late
find a
tax.
crazy old scientist to, convert a DeLorean so I can hop in it, and then I got to locate plutonium to go back in time to get this thing. Or I can pay an extra $50 or $100 just to, okay, cool. Now I have that.
If you can swing it now, get it now, because it won't be cheaper than this moment.
Bingo.
Absolutely.
It's never going to get cheaper than it is right now.
We have a special guest that's going to jump on in a second. I see him in the green room. I want to plus him in. Before we plus him, I want to plus in this super chat from Tucker Prime. People buy Mondo and statues can be over $1,000. Yeah, I think in general, I kind of, at least within this GDL community that comes and join these streams, you have over 450 people watching right now, and thousands watch it after the fact. The majority realize, or at least understand, this is an overpriced. Maybe it's just too much money for them to spend, or not enough space for it, right? We have had Trevor 16 Shooter in the chat. If you don't know him, we'll bring him on in a second, so you get to know him. But he does the photography for the Four Horsemen, done the photography here for the BEYITHIRR, and let's bring him on. Bring a warm welcome, first time on a Sunday GDL stream. Trevor, welcome to the show.
And all I had to do is barge my way in. Thanks.
Nah.
Just keep typing. No.
He's like, God damn it, Brick, you're not saying the right things. Let me get on.
You're doing a great job. I've been doing this spiel now for like
I know
3
he
days.
has.
Yeah, and I just kind of wanted to clear, not clear some things up. I think you guys are covering it well. I also have some stuff to show you, which is really cool.
Hell yeah.
If you think about this, if you're dragon curious and you're not a Mythic Legions collector, if you're a D&D, I mean, this would make an incredible D&D centerpiece if you're into that stuff, or fantasy art, or just an enemy for your, Marvel Legends or whatever. The figures that come with this thing, so when it hits the goal of, and the stretch goals are only 500, so it's going to hit 2,000 pretty easily. We're already over a quarter of the way there. It's got to hit 2,800, 3,000 to get this full figure that you're going to see here, which is insane. And I'll show it to you now. Here we go. First time on camera, I believe, outside of Megagar. So this is Sir Benegar. This is probably one of the best pieces of cloth I've ever seen CJ.
Look at that! Look at that kind of iridescent gold.
Yeah,
thing
it's beautiful. Let me see if I get it a little closer. It's beautiful. Sorry, my fingers are in the way of most of it, but yeah,
it looks great.
I'm also holding it together because it is a prototype. It's pretty good. But this helmet and these pauldrons are not going to be made again. They're going to break the mold on these, basically, literally and figuratively.
Okay.
So a lot of times there's reuse, and you're not going to get this figure ever again specifically, but you're not even going to get those parts, which are a big part of collecting Mythic Legions, the different parts, and reuse is the name of the game. They're not going to reuse those ever again. You're not going to get them. So this figure alone, like if you buy the dragon for $550 and you're not a Mythic Legions collector, or you just don't care about the figure, or you just want the dragon, you want to recoup some money, I would say, am I still here? Yeah, I would say that $250 minimum you could probably get for that figure alone. Then it does come with, I haven't unboxed the charred skeletons yet. Let me see if I can pull them out.
Unbox.
They're all packed up. I was told I can show these though, so I will show them. Let me see if I can grab one of them here. I don't know if this is the zombie. I'm throwing parts. That's not good. Hang on a second.
While you're unboxing that too, another cool thing that Four Horsemen, or that the team did as well, is the fact that
God, I love that.
This Ashen, is this different from? Is this different from the Ashen skeleton that's being offered with the wing add-on set?
This is the winged one, right?
This is the zombie. This is the one that comes with the wings, and this is based on the Red Death body, painted black. I mean, these are pretty simple figures, but they are boxed and they are official. And any insane Mythic Legions collector like myself will pay money for these. So if you don't care for them, on the wing pack alone, if you got the wing pack or the fire pack for $150. And didn't want the figure, just wanted the head and the fire for the dragon, I'm think you're looking at like $100 for this at least. Keep in mind that's going to be based on the number made of that set. So if there's only 2,000 of those sets made, there's only 2,000 of these. It's going to be one of the rarest Mythic Legions figures probably ever made. And the same with our Dragon Lord here. What is his name?
Vinegar. So the reason I know that is it sounds like my grandma saying vinegar. But yes.
It's been a long day and the daylight savings time is killing me. Benegar here is probably, if there's 4,000 of them made, that's it. 4,000 of this guy. So think about that. If you want the dragon and you don't care about Mythic Legions, the figures, you can recoup probably over half of the price of that thing and get a cool dragon for $225, which is pretty amazing.
And you never can just, skeletons and zombies are kind of like chips. You can't just have one, right? So there are gonna be people who are actively looking for those, who want multiple Ashen zombies and Ashen skeletons.
I'm already making deals for people I'm going to literally buy the sets for them so that they don't have to pay for them for a year. I'm going to buy the sets and then they're going to pay. I'm going to get the figure for a little, less money. And not to flip it because I'm insane and I want them. But yeah, as I said, the margins super, super thin on this thing. These guys, I know a lot of people don't know them personally or haven't really paid attention to everything, but they're very involved in the community.
Yes, they are.
Everybody in the community loves them. And Eric Treadaway, one of the owners, is the sculptor for this. He's worked on this for 2 years. So they don't even factor in that cost into this.
Sure.
That's a wash. That's not like we had to hire out a sculptor and pay him $30,000 to sculpt this thing, and we got to factor that in. That goes right out the window. So the margins are super thin. They just want to see this made. I know people say, look, the wings, $150. The tooling on the wings, is nuts. They're this big. They're huge. So,
but on that note, Trevor. Sorry, you're saying that they want to see it made. Let's talk about the fans. I was talking about earlier about the infamous dragon confirmed joke constantly, when's the dragon coming? And Cornboy and others have one of the Four Horsemen have said, are you guys sure you want a dragon? Consistently, there's let's be real for a second. If
you're ready for the commitments.
But that's what they said. They were like, if we're gonna do a dragon, it's gonna be gigantic. So my point in all that is as much as they want to see it, they also realize that there are hardcore fans who have been waiting for this thing and asking for this thing.
Yeah.
I don't know, in my brain, at least, I don't know if this is real or not, But I wonder if they would have even done this if it hadn't been for folks clamoring and kept pushing for it year after year after year after year. If they would have realistically been like, let's do this huge thing that we don't normally do and take this huge risk and sort of put it out there and put all this work into it. Because it hasn't been it's nothing like anything else they've done.
Well, and I just think this Four Horsemen are such an influence in the toy sculpting, toy making community. Like Dan Larson and I do the Toy Geeks podcast, and I feel like every time we have a toy maker as a guest on the show, like I don't think any of them haven't like mentioned the Four Horsemen as an influence for them getting into toy making, or they weren't like necessarily brought in by the Four Horsemen and got their start in toy sculpting because of the Four Horsemen. Like there's such a influential and impactful group to like you could just trace so much of what we have as toy collectors today to their work. So to me, I would be disappointed if the toy community as a whole is kind of pushing back that hard, because I feel like both for you, Brick, and I'm Trevor, not so much, but there's like maybe a defensiveness, and I feel like out of any toy maker today, the one that should have the most goodwill and assuming of positive intent should be Four Horsemen out of everybody.
I was about to say, what does NECA have to do with any of it? I'm joking.
But toy sculptors at NECA are like, well, I got in because I saw an article in like freaking Toy Fair about, it's just, they're so influential and so well loved by so many. Trevor, you brought in an image here you want to oh, come on now.
Ooh.
You can't be showing translucent figures like that.
And I know, Cameron and Sherry will kill it in terms of the paint. Like they've already killed it, and then it's ever since I was an intern, it's blown my mind the way they handle the work. They'll paint it and then they'll send it to the factory, and the factory will just reproduce what they've done.
I get the prototypes that they painted by hand, and I'm always amazed when I get the production figures in hand at how perfect they are in terms of what they first presented me to. So their factory, they do a great, and Chris over there does a great job at managing them. Chris has been in that business for a long time and does a lot. Yeah, I knew this would get Dan drooling.
This is Dan coded right here.
That's Dan candy right there.
What flavor is the plastic?
And I see some things in the chat, like people are saying, I wish there was a saddle. People will make saddles. I said the other day, if you get the two heads, some third-party maker, which is a huge part of the Mythic Legions community, will probably make a double-necked connector to put both the heads on the dragon. You're going to get all that stuff eventually.
How about 5 heads? A little team head action? That's what I
be a little tough to fit, but maybe.
And people are going to make alternate heads for the thing. All of it. That is the other beauty of this like fan base, is that it's and the Four Horsemen have sort of engendered it and supported it and nurtured people to create their own stuff. And anyways, good stuff.
All right, Trevor, you put an image that you wanted to share out here, so I'll plus
somebody put this together. So this is great size comparison that somebody did. Really cool, because I've heard a lot of people saying, I don't have room for this. Where am I going to put it? You know what I mean? And the tail curls up. You can even put it on top of a rock, more like the picture that I took had it on a dio. It's going to be a little taller, maybe 24, 25 inches. But really, I mean, in comparison, look at the Sentinel or Galactus or, any of these things. Skull Mountain, it's reasonable. Jay, you could fit it in your front hall.
My wife just joined the chat, Trevor. Let's just not try to.
It would make a lovely centerpiece on the table, honestly.
But
quite
again,
the conversation.
Jay, get it, have it customized so that
she's dealing with the Cat Slayer boxes inbox sitting in our front entryway into our house.
I'm trying to get it to sell it. I'm trying to sell it to go with the Disney map that you got, right? So you could do something with
Look at the paint on this compared to that Cat Slayer. Come on, man. Come on.
That's where I wasn't going, Trevor. Why do you got to bring other people?
I'm going there. Damn it. Here to sell this
No,
thing.
it's incredible. It's
Full
incredible.
disclosure: Four Horsemen has done a bunch of great Super 7 toys as well.
Yeah,
just to
yeah.
give you
Yeah,
everywhere.
Super 7's great. It's
Yeah.
by all accounts, it's a fantastic piece.
But yeah, no, it's stunning. It's a great thing. Have it attacking. I don't have my classics Castle Grayskull. I sold that a while ago.
Yeah, that would be cool, actually.
That would be really
Here's a
sick.
poll for you. What's the reality that by the end of this campaign, Brick doesn't order a BEYITHIRR? Because I'll tell you, every time I'm looking at this thing, I'm just like, well, I guess I could just put it in a closet somewhere.
I'm telling you, man,
anyway.
you could sell those figures and basically have a
I know.
$250,
Oh, I know.
$200 dragon, depending on
Yeah.
what you want to do. Maybe we'll talk.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll talk. I want those figures, so maybe we'll talk.
All right. So, Trevor, any other things that you wanted to like show off? Like, hey, look at what I got. As we round out this conversation.
Those are the figures. I mean,
Okay,
they're
all right.
gorgeous. Here's the shield for Benegar.
Very nice.
Yep.
Very nice.
Benegar.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Think Pat Benatar, as someone
Pat
pointed out.
Benegar.
Yes. I love that.
Yeah, just I want people to keep an open mind about it, and just like you said, Quip, like, let's just quell the negativity. You know, I mean, if you don't want it, you don't have to buy it. There's nobody forcing you to buy it. This is for this was made for a certain group of collectors, but I think there's a lot of people outside that Mythic Legions group who will be interested in this. It is expensive because it's expensive to make, and they're not making a fortune on this. I've seen people saying, "Oh, they're being greedy." It's not greed, man. It's not telling you right now. It's not a lot of margin. They got mouths to feed, so they're not making a profit, but they're not a huge corporation that's beholden to shareholders that have to make a lot of money.
I think if there is that pushback, and maybe it feels weird, as maybe Force doesn't really get any of that, or maybe not as much of that type of pushback, because I think it is such a people that get it, just like that community gets it, and so they usually don't play in the waters of maybe, I don't know, like Hasbro has to play in or whatever. But yeah, I would say even in this chat where it's like over 70% don't think it's overpriced. So there's going to be vocal people out there, but I don't feel like it's the majority of people are like,
I don't think so either.
Pooping on this or something.
So far, so good with the YouTube.
Before we move away, though, there's a question and then that made me remember.
Okay.
Let's talk a little bit about articulation as far as Trevor. I know they're still sort of exploring some things, but someone just asked, is there a way, Michael Wood said, is there a way to get it to sit up on its hind legs? And that just occurred to me, like, let people know this isn't a statue. Can you talk a little bit about the movement? Because as far as I know, like you'd be more familiar.
Yeah. As far as I know, it won't necessarily do that, only because the tail that comes off the back starts to bend at a certain point. You might get it halfway there. I don't think it's going to stand on its own. It will easily stand up on a rock or something like that, but I don't think it's going to stand on its feet. I'm not saying you can't try.
You could use the tail to like balance it out or something.
You probably could. Yeah. It's just not, it's only going to go back so far because the tail has to come off the body and then become a bendy part. So there's that little stem and the legs being what they are. I don't know if you're going to get much of an angle on it, but I don't know.
The tail's going to get in the way for it to be able to sit up. Basically,
exactly. 50 points of articulate, over 50 points of articulation. There are extra. They're not showing them. I don't know why.
Hey, I was going to ask you, how many hands? That's really important. Extra.
So the front hands, I think they're all removable, but the front hands that comes with an extra set of hands that I keep doing this. Sorry, that are like this. They're in the picture that I took.
It's a great.
They will hold. Yeah. They will hold a knight, so you can grab this guy and hold him up and blow fire at him, and So, but that's it. I think it just comes with that extra pair of hands for the front. But over 50 points of articulation. What else? The ratcheted wings. They're working on a different ball joint configuration for that, so that there's a little more movement out of them. Okay. So it's getting better as it goes along. But they're going to be nice and ratcheted, so they stand up, they won't droop or anything like that. Probably a bunch of ratcheted joints on these legs and stuff like that. It's going to be real stable. It's going to be very nice. It's not a statue at all. You can do a lot with it. So, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, no, I love it. I don't want to post in some chats here. Alpha Magnus, there is no NECA sewer layer Donnie's lab pushback. I haven't heard much myself. Blake from Toy Collector, just on fire, as Dan Larson said in the chat tonight. If you can't be rich, be irresponsible.
Yes, Blake. Absolutely.
I don't know if you saw it earlier, Trevor, but he also, Blake asked if you're going to be at Toylanta in a couple weeks.
I'll be at Toylanta, and I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe the Dragon's going to be at Toylanta as well. So, yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
I would also like to point out there, even on this website that you've got pulled up right now, Jay, shop pay is an option.
Yes. Pay in 4. So if you don't, like, I've heard a lot of people saying, I don't get paid until like the end of the month or in 2 weeks or whatever. You can do this. The jury is out as whether you have to pay right up in front. Some people have said you don't, and some people have said you make the first payment and then you have 3 more payments over the course of 6 weeks, I think it is. So
okay.
it's like 6 or 8 weeks, something like that you get to pay. Yeah. So.
Yeah, there was a question on whether or not, if you're going to do the payments, is the first payment immediately or is it on their schedule? In which case, people are saying that it's like 2 weeks. Yeah, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Timeline I've seen for people, it's going to be, they say it's going to be mid 2026. I know a lot of people are doubtful about that. I'm not sure it might be mid 2026. I think within 2026 you're going to get this. They're way ahead on this in terms of like working on articulation, and we had a test shot at Legion's Con to show with some movement and stuff. So I think it's going to be fine. It's one figure. They can concentrate on that. You know what I mean? It's not a whole line of a whole wave of figures that have all, multitudes of new parts and problems and stuff like that. So I think we'll be fine for next year.
There've been a couple of comments in there, like if they had produced Benegar, it's so good looking that if they just sold that separately, people would buy it. And I think I just want to say, like, yes, 2 things, of course. And I think that's part of the incentive to get the dragon. And I think the other thing is, like, if folks aren't familiar with Mythic Legions or any of these, it's not like there aren't other amazing figures that you can get that aren't Benegar. So, like, if you're wondering, like, I think that's amazing. But if the argument is that, oh, they're making somehow a mistake by only tying this thing to this one dragon, no, I think it's strategic. I think, one, this character is like is lore wise tied to this dragon, this character, this dragon character. So it 100% makes sense. Think of it like if you're a G.I. Joe fan, this is the pilot that comes with it, something like that. So there's that argument. And then other people are asking, I think it's the same person actually. I think it was Judge Dredd's asking, like, hey, would they make a smaller dragon so that people can get it?
The space conscious individuals, a baby dragon.
Tuned, because I think you said this earlier, Brick, when I was listening, that there's 5 pillars.
Yes.
Somebody did bring up that maybe they aren't all dragons. We don't know that. I don't know that, actually. But they did kind of allude to, if they did another dragon, there may be smaller dragons along the lines. There's tons of different types of dragons. Sea dragons. Yes. This is a Werverin.
Cthulhu would be dope.
Size, all sorts of Cthulhu, man, maybe. They are branching out into the waters outside of Mythos now, into different continents beyond that was part of the lore that they put out there during Legion's Con. So who knows what comes from those waters? Who knows? But yeah, I would think that this is probably going to be, I don't know that they said this, but probably the biggest of the pillars that they put out. And everything from here on out will be a little smaller. The other thing is, somebody said, hey, I want a red dragon, I want a black dragon. If this does well enough, because right now, I'll tell you about the margins. They didn't have the margins to even offer it
in
at
different
a retail discount.
Oh, okay.
No, at a retail, for like a Big Bad Toy Store to buy it at a discount and sell it for $5.50. Big Bad Toy Store may buy some and mark it way up, but they just couldn't even do that. They didn't have the room for it. So if this does well, I could see them maybe doing like they do with the Figura Obscuras, like a retail version of this that's maybe black or red or something. I know a lot of people are asking for red. I don't know that for fact, but it's a possibility. You know what I mean? They have the molds. They could do it. Yeah.
And
I'll
as
plus
far
in
as-
this. Oh, just
go
real
ahead.
quick, can I plus in the
Yeah.
super chat and then we'll get to yours. Displaying model behavior, 5 pounds.
Hey,
Good to see you. DMB. To paraphrase Homer Simpson, with today's gasoline prices, we can't afford not to buy a dragon.
Exactly, Dave. Exactly.
I will just say that because I know I've been hanging out here in the GDL audience and in the Patreon for a while now, and I know that not everybody checks out Mythic Legions. Like there's just all sorts of different types of collectors. But I will say, like, we're talking about this dragon. Please, like, understand this is like, as I kind of established in the beginning, this is like the pinnacle of like 10 years of making. But like, go check out some other stuff because they do like Frankenstein, this kind of stuff, and it's all gorgeous. You got snakes, you got knights with like heads that look like old Russian architecture, you got zombies, you got all sorts of stuff, and it's all that same like beautiful level of quality that you'll see in a BEYITHIRR.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
for like $35
Oh, yeah, those guys are the
on
best.
pre-order, or like
Yeah.
40, 50 in retail. So they got sci-fi. My point is, like, especially to this audience, like, if this is the first time you're hearing about Mythic Legions, please don't be like, oh my God, they sell like $1,000 dragons. No, they sell like $35, $40 figures that are
Exactly.
amazing and will
Oh, hell
change
yeah,
your
look at those heads.
So
toy,
rad.
totally change your toy collector world. So
Agreed.
check it out. Check it out.
Jamie Vaughn, I've paid way more for an MP combiner. This isn't really a terrible price. Oh, it looks so good.
Sure.
This has the little
That's
little
face plates, right? Too.
the faceplate comes out, and you could actually pop it into your other knight.
Yeah.
I used to have this here.
Yeah,
but
I was
guess
going to
we
say
put it
those
back.
head sculpts are even going to
Yep.
sell. Like some people are
You
going to
could go
part
the-
out those head sculpts. And
Yeah, you can
Oh,
go
for
the other
sure.
way around and put like a human face and there another skull and do a weird
Inside here,
you
yeah.
know, Ghost Rider type thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Now it's not as probably up to date as other charts, but Brian Brink, master of the charts, has set up our first Four Horsemen Brian Brink chart. It is
Exciting.
available on geekdadlife.com. You can go check that out right meow. And I'll also put a link in the chat right now if you want to follow along at home. But I believe, Trevor, y'all are only updating this every night, right? Or every day, once a day?
It's Jeremy. He's the director of sales and marketing. He is updating it daily right now.
Okay.
If there are bigger jumps, and I expect towards the end of the week when people are getting paid.
Yeah.
And of course, we know how it works at the end of the campaign. People either have waited to see whatever if the stretch goals unlock or FOMO sets in, whatever, we're going to see a big jump. But yeah, daily for now, maybe bi-daily if there's a big jump or something. So yeah.
But Brian put a lot of work into this. It's unique in that it's like a HasLab with a bunch of other previous releases with data points that are publicly available and sourceable. So there's not a lot of like the predictive chart, like pathways and stuff like that some of other Brian Brink charts have had in the past. But he's got lines for all of the levels, the tiers, the unlocks, the main goal, as well as the different add-ons. And since it's kind of three separate backing things going on at the same time, you can see those three paths starting out right now. And not a shocker, the main dragon by himself is in the lead here with 700 backers already, a little under 700. I'm sure it's probably at 700 now. For the dragon, need to be at 2,000 to unlock that. We've got around 500 for the Fiery Breath pack, which needs to be at 1,000 to unlock that. And then the Epic Wings pack needs about 1,000, and it's a little over 400. So starting out and on its way. And the deadline for this set is April 6th at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you want to get it, time is of the essence, and we will keep tracking it here on GDL, or you can just track it at home anytime you want, because Brian Brink works nonstop on these things. You can find those, as always, on geekdadlife.com. This ended up being the whole damn show today, which is not a problem. It's a topic everybody want to talk about it. That's fine. I'll roll with it. Trevor, any final thoughts from you, good sir?
No, if you wanna check the progress, it's also on
It is. You all have your own charts on there too, yeah.
yeah, mythiclegions.com or
It's not as Brian Brinkified though. I'm just gonna say
it's not as sexy looking. Well, it is pretty sexy looking.
It's pretty sexy. It's
not as
sexy in its own way.
Yeah, it's geeky sexy. That's Brian stuff. No, that's it. I mean, again, it's not for everybody, but I think it's a fantastic product. I think it's very well priced for what it is. If you haven't seen it in person and you're going to be in Toylanta, check it out. It is hard to get the scale. You know what I mean? It is hard to know how good there are. I would suggest going on Instagram and just even searching, BEYITHIRR or and people have taken close-ups of it at ZoloCon. There's a lot of detail in my pictures, but they're lit a certain way. You know what I mean? Like these are just like right in its face. You know what I mean? I may put some up in my stories too, if you want to follow me. But yeah, it's beautiful, man. It's a gorgeous piece of work. And I think it's toy history, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, hard to argue against that. It's when you get to stand among some of these historical big toy releases, I think it's a fair thing to say. Brick, what do you have to say? Final thoughts.
I mean, I've said a bunch. It's blowing me away to look at this thing and think about two of those toys in that picture were worked on by Four Horsemen, which I think is just again cool. I'm referring to the Castle Grayskull folks, but yeah, I think it's fantastic.
There on the Castle Grayskull too for classics.
Mm-hmm. Just. I don't know. I'd love to come on your show in particular because I do know that a lot of folks are sort of like Legions curious, indie toy curious, which is sort of like what I trade in essentially. I love the indie toy thing. And so I'm going to say, if this is not for you, fine. I'm going to say what I said earlier. Just check these toys out. I really, really, really highly encourage you to maybe buy one. And just it'll give you a sense of what I mean, what Trevor's sort of saying in terms of the beauty of these things. And you guys too. I know, Jay, you've messed with them. Quip, you've seen them. It'll rock your world a little bit. So that's it. And I'm really happy about it. I'm still kind of flip-flopping in my head.
I got to sell you.
Bit. Yeah. Anyways.
And then Quip, final thoughts from you.
Final thoughts. Just one, thanks for Trevor Brick. Thank you for coming on and sharing all the information and perspective as you have. We'll just say it once again. If this is not for you, that is okay. Please, by all means, collect within your means. However, if you're not purchasing it, toys beget toys. There's no need to tear it down or rail against how, I don't want this, I don't need this, this is this and that. Just, hey, if you don't want it, that's okay. Somebody else absolutely, as has been shared in the chat and over the course of this conversation, this is a grail piece for many. There have been people that have been clamoring for, waiting for this for a few years. So let's not rain on their parade. If it's for them, fantastic. You don't need to collect it. And if you are standing by for a red version or something else, right? We don't know what the future brings, but chances are that if this particular vehicle works for getting BEYITHIRR funded, right? We're thinking about the 5 pillars within Mythic Legions, but what implications could there potentially be for Cosmic Legion vessels? That maybe that will be more within your collecting space if you're interested in that, right? Just, hey, toys beget toys, so I am here for it. I'm excited about it, and I'm excited on behalf of all the cabal and the 4-H collectors out there in the community.
Amen. Two guys talking toys. I look forward to Jay's upcoming show. I bought it. This is gonna be tough for me right now when I've got 2 big sets. I've already got like checks I cashed multiple years ago. But happy for those that are gonna get it. We'll see what happens on that. But yeah, in Model Mind, I see you asked this question a couple times. To me, I think it's pretty straightforward. A articulated figure, the tooling that goes into an articulated figure is going to be more complicated, more expensive than a hollowed out play set that, even though it's maybe bigger in scale, does not have the same level of production costs that go into it and MOP.
And numbers. Your
numbers,
average
like the
has
MLQ.
lab is
Yeah.
8,000 to 10,000 minimum.
Yeah.
This is 2. So yeah.
It's just different.
Yeah, and you brought that up. I want to highlight that, like, they're looking to make 2,000 as sort of the minimum trigger to make this thing. That, like, folks need to, I don't know, challenge their high school econ teacher, which I am one, because maybe you missed some lessons or something.
What about those that didn't take econ in high schools? I didn't.
Legit question, though. I understand it.
I went to school in California. We didn't have econ as a requirement. In Southern California, I capped out at algebra 2. I was like, all right, I'm done.
Okay. Anyways.
And then surfing 101.
We had a break. This was late 90s California schools. We had reel-to-reel, film that we would play as our, education.
Well, no matter when you were in high school in California, I was in high school a couple years earlier, and it was a requirement. So
in LA, maybe San Diego schools.
Anyways,
did not have the best. Anyway,
it's Sunday night. I don't want to think about school.
Exactly. Trevor, people can find you at 16 Shooter on Instagram and all the other socials, YouTube, and all that.
Yep, 16 Shooter on YouTube, and I do have a show every other Monday called Legion's Lounge that we talk about all this stuff. So
beautiful. We'll check that out. The Quip, you're here, but anything else right now? This is it. This is the main thing for you.
This is it right now.
Okay.
Just speaking of, I don't want to come across as desperate or anything, but I know toy anxiety. Craig said sometime in March, and I haven't heard. I've been waiting.
That's classic Craig behavior. He'll just hit you up like 2 minutes before live and be like, "Hey, do you want to join?" Which is also my mode of how I do this, so there's no judgment on Craig either. Brick, you have a phenomenal channel. You're on the Friends of GDL, so go click on it and subscribe. You haven't done it yet, but you do streams Sundays generally before this stream. Anything coming up on your channel that you want to talk about or promote?
I just started a show called Into the Masterverse, where we're gonna go through all the releases of Masterverse, because we're huge fans, and that's another one of those lines that I think is kind of criminally underrated. And I say it's me and Cobweb Collector. The second episode drops on his channel this time. The first episode where we looked at a figure dropped on my channel, so go check that out. And then, speaking of the Sunday stream, that's 3:45 p.m. Pacific. Next week I had a little shift in the schedule because of this damn dragon thing. Jeremy Gerard from the Four Horsemen Studios will be joining me next Sunday at 3:45, and we can get more questions answered and hopefully some lore stuff and get some stuff clarified. I'm really excited about that. So that's it.
Love it. Yes, I went to Santana High School. Somebody knows my backstory here. In Santee, California. Yeah, it was not. I don't think we had anything. Anywho, on my channel, I just posted a review of this hero figure. Go check it out. It was fun. It was fun to put on the reviewing hat. I don't do it enough, but now I'm working from home again, so maybe more video reviews will be coming up to this channel. So make sure you subscribe, hit the bell so you don't miss any of that kind of stuff. And Toy Geeks returns tomorrow it'll post on the Toy Geeks YouTube channel or any of the audio podcast streams. Dan and I will be joined by Thomas Gwynn, the great sculptor from NECA, who does and has done the amazing Dungeons and Dragons figures. We will be kicking off the first year of LJN's Advanced Dungeons and Dragons on the Toy Geeks podcast. So join us there for that. Should be a lot of fun. No After Dark tonight. I got to travel for work at 4 a.m. tomorrow morning, and I need to get to sleep so I don't die on the travels. So yeah, going to Smell A. It's going to be great.
Hey, born and raised Queen of Angels off the 101. You calm down there, sir.
Sorry, San Diego kid, 619, born and bred.
213-310-562.
We'll see you all next time. Thank you so much for hanging out. Until then, hasta luego and goodbye. Take care, everybody. Have a great start to your week.